Can you tell us your name, where you're from, and your role in this production?
My name is Isabella Owen. I'm from Jonesboro, Arkansas, and I played La Ciesca.
Great. Um, how do you feel that COVID has impacted your ability to make music?
It's definitely different than in previous years, but I'm really thankful to be at Ouachita because we're able to still put out art and do what we love. I know some other universities, some other places aren't able to do that. But it's different singing with a mask for sure. That's one big thing. Staying socially distant. It's hard to kind of tune when you're far away from each other. Those are some of the main things. I mean, there's so much that's different. It's hard to pinpoint it all.
Okay. Well, let's to follow up some of the things you talked about. Let's talk about maybe some specific things. Um, in thinking of the way that you use uh, the PPE and these things, did that affect the way you approached your role? Are we echoing again?
A little bit, but I think I got it. Um, it was more of instead of, I do a lot of facial expressions normally when I'm acting, but it was more having to do physical things because you can't see a good like 75% of my face. Um, so it didn't affect so much when we were recording the audio, but definitely when we switched over to doing the dramatic stuff. I had to be reminded a bunch to, use my body instead of just focusing on like the facial expressions I was making.
Yeah. Did you pick up anything or any new ways of approaching your acting that you're going to continue to use after we're done with the pandemic?
Definitely, yeah. I think kind of having that push to make me use my physicality more is going to help me in later characters, even if and when we don't have to wear masks anymore. I'll definitely think about the physicality of my character, how my character walks, how she would react, with her body as opposed to just, raising her eyebrows or smiling.
Yeah. Is there anything about the way that we recorded that you would have done differently if it had been in a live performance?
Definitely, yeah. I think the weirdest thing for me was, in live theater, you cheat out towards the audience, but we didn't have an audience, we had a camera. And even then, we would cheat towards the camera, but you would tell us, no, it's okay to have your back to the camera. And that was just so bizarre to me because my back would be to the audience and to the camera. And it's just, you're told, like, cheat out, cheat out, cheat out, so that the audience can see you, but there's no audience. It was bizarre.
Um, was there anything about our approach and the way that we chose to do audio first and then filming? Was there anything about that you think allowed you to perform better?
I think so, actually. Being able to record the audio first and then, lip syncing over it, doing the acting, I was really able to pour more into each of those separately.
Okay.
So that, the music was wonderful. It was great. Like, we were able to put so much effort into that and make it as perfect as we could get it. And then the drama side was great because we were able to put so much time and effort into that separately. So that you're not trying to focus on, am I coming in right, am I singing the right notes, right rhythms? You're lip syncing to it, so you know the gist of it, but you're able to get more involved into the scene and with character work.
Can you think of a specific point or a specific moment in the show where you were able to make choices because you had done the audio earlier?
Oh, let me think. Yes, during the part after Gianni Schicchi has, claimed everything that the family wanted and we're just hysterical, rolling around on the floor. I don't know if I would have been able to do that and then stood right up and sung again. I think I would have been too out of breath from like rolling around and just throwing myself up against the stairs. I think it probably would not have sounded too good if I was singing live.
Is there is there anything about the approach we took that hindered your ability to act in this role?
I don't think so, actually. I think it helped in more ways. I mean, it was different, and it probably would have been a completely different experience had we not had to social distance and wear masks and follow those guidelines, but sometimes different isn't bad. You know, it kind of pushed us, I think, all as artists to do something that's out of the box for us, because, you know, I think at Ouachita we're very blessed to, you know, always have people supporting the arts, even when there's not a pandemic. And so that kind of helped, having them still support us and us not have to really change what we do. But it was good for us to have to step out of the box. I think we created something really special.
How has social distancing affected the way you interact with other actors on stage?
That's a good question. It's really difficult, to be totally honest, because normally, I mean, like when, for example, Carlin and I were a couple and we were supposed to be, you know, consoling each other at the beginning, but we couldn't. You mentioned, like, you would be like, oh, like hugging and crying, but we were 6 feet apart, so it was more just like looking at him like, well, you know, it's sad, but that's one major thing. And it's also just weird being so far away from people, just because that's not how it normally is. Normally you're maybe like 2 or 3 feet away from someone, you give them their space, but 6 feet, like, you can't touch them. It's weird. So you have to use, once again, like, your physicality more, as opposed to just, you know, a little look and a little shrug. It's got to be like, oh, you know.
And I may have asked this already. Is there anything about the way we did the show that you would do differently? That you would say, I wish we had done this instead of this?
I don't think so. I mean, honestly, before I came back to school, I was wondering how we were going to do anything. And
You weren't the only one.
yeah, I'm sure everyone was too, but I don't think there was anything I would do differently. I didn't know how y'all were going to do it, and what you came up with was pretty creative, and I think it worked really well.
Thank you. Yeah, but when I said you weren't the only one, I meant us. We also didn't know exactly how we were going to do it.
I can't imagine.
Some of the process of revealing things to y'all was because we didn't know what the answer was going to be.
Yeah.
So
strange.
Do you feel like you had a voice in the creative process that we just went through?
I think so. Well, because you had us think about our character work as we were going, so we kind of had that own personal touch that we could take to it. And Dr. Brown with the music as well encouraged us to think about our character, like what was going on, but also like the dynamics and the musicality of it all. So I think there was definitely, you know, there in any type of art you can see the individuality kind of poke through. Like no production of Gianni Schicchi is going to be the same because there's different casts, different people take different takes on their characters, sing phrases differently, and even if we had done it live, each performance would have been a little bit different.
Yeah. How did recording this show the way we did, how was that different from a live performance for you?
We had opportunities to make everything exactly how we wanted it. There have been shows that I've been in the past where I'll have a night, like where it's a multiple night run. I'll have a night where I'm like, that was the worst performance I've ever given in my entire life. But then the next night could be the best one I've ever had. But by being able to record the audio several times, record the drama scenes separately and put them together, you got everything pretty close to how you wanted it, which is more than I can say for other productions.
How did your perception of your role before we started differ from how you actually performed that role in the end?
That's a good question. Ciesca definitely developed as time went on, especially with, you know, reading. Each time we would sing over a part, I would notice something different, be like, oh, I could play that this way. So that it kind of, you know, changed and morphed into what she ended up being, which is, I'll use a term that you used, rotten to the core. You know, she's just Oh, she's terrible. Like, so spoiled and just wants money, doesn't really care about anything else. I tried to give her a little bit of, some layers, some dimension, but when it comes down to it, they're all terrible. I mean,
If you were able to go back 8 months, just as the pandemic began, what would you tell yourself?
oh gosh. Definitely use your time in quarantine for something other than watching Netflix and being sad that you can't go outside. I would definitely encourage myself because I was worried that we weren't going to be able to come back to school at all or do anything artistically, musically. That was something I was really concerned with. I thought I wasn't going to be able to do anything for my major. So that was really encouraging to me that I was able to come back and do all of these things. So I definitely mentioned that, tell her, like, keep hope, it'll be okay.
What would you have liked us to be able to do in the production that we weren't able to do?
I love doing live theater, and I'm so glad that we were able to do anything, like I've said before, but it's definitely different having a live audience there because you can feed off of their reactions. So I think we may have played our characters a little bit differently based on how they reacted. But I don't know. I love performing live. Filming was definitely different, and I'm glad I had that experience. But it also narrowed down that I don't really want to do that. I would rather perform for a live audience.
Yeah, yeah. Is there anything about the way you collaborated during production that you will use once the pandemic is over?
Yes. Oh gosh, that's a really good question. I don't know. I think it'll make me more thankful when things do come back to normal. But I was also forced to pour myself into the music and the drama and in a way that I hadn't done before, which I should have been doing all along. I don't know why I wasn't, but I had more time and I wanted it more because I hadn't done it in so long. I forgot why I loved it so much, and it was a good reminder. But I think I can use that passion, being locked up in a room for 8 months, acting like that, just reminded me to love what I do even more. So it was a good reminder, and I'll try to keep that attitude going into other things as well.
Is there anything you'd like to add? You'd like to share with us about the production or how you felt about it?
I don't know. Well, yeah. I think I said most things. I am just really thankful that we were able to do anything. I know I mentioned that, but it's such a big deal to me that I was able to come back and do what I love. Because if I had been, Zooming every single class, doing online classes like some other people are having to do, so much respect for them. I don't know how they're doing it. I just feel like music and theater classes are so difficult already. They present new challenges every day, but especially doing it with a barrier of a screen and however many miles between you and the professor, it's crazy.
Was there any aspect about the fact that I was not in the room? How did that affect your ability to work with your director?
That's a good point. It was definitely different the first time I'd ever not had someone there who can, most of the time directors are, walking around, they're like, I want you here, and you can do this, and showing you, and standing, and all that, but with you being behind the screen, there was there was definitely a barrier there, and sometimes we wouldn't quite get what you were saying, and it would just take longer for each of us to explain, just because we did have that lack of, you being here. It's very different. You were not less involved, but involved in a different way. So it was very different, very strange.
Yeah, I felt like all of us, we had to use other tools that we had depended less on to compensate for things that we had lost.
Yeah, there's definitely a we had to have an extra dose of patience with everybody just because
Yes,
it's
we all did, yeah.
so wild. Yeah,
Dr. Brown, is there anything you want to add?
I'm good.
great.
Proud of your work.
Yay.
Oh, yes, very proud, yes, but yeah, you should be very proud of what you did.
Yay.
I saw just a really wonderful growth and just a willingness to, as we were just saying, to explore tools that you hadn't really thought about before.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that you talked about your bringing things from your face into your body. That the same freedom of expression you had in your face, you had to transfer into just doing that physically with the rest of your body. I think you did that really beautifully.
Thank you.
I think you'll be a better actress for the experience. Sorry. Really